What's good, everyone? This is your host, Tarad Rashan, and you are now tuned into Taradcast. For all of the brand new listeners out there listening to our show for the very first time, welcome. And for all of you returning listeners coming back for another weekly dose of Taradcast excellence, welcome back. Now, here at Taradcast, you can take everything we say with a grain of salt. We simply just want to add some flavor to your meal. So if we are doing that, then we are doing our job. Now, today's episode is an episode that is going to give us the opportunity to take a bit of a deeper dive into the military. And we have a very, very special guest, a really wonderful friend of mine who's going to talk about some of her experiences in the armed services. So without further ado, today's episode topic is the military's mark on a melanated mother. This is Taradcast. Let's get it. All right, y'all. Welcome back to Taradcast. Again, I'm your host, Tarad Rashan, and today's episode is the military's mark on a melanated mother. Yes, we are coming to you from the standpoint of military experience, but from the viewpoint of being a mother, and specifically a black mother. And this is an episode that for me is really, really near and dear to me, because as someone who is an advocate for black women, there are a lot of things that pertain to experiences that oftentimes go unsaid. And I hope that with today's conversation and today's very special guest, we can also shed some light on some of these things and provide more conversation to the topic at hand, and just bring about some clarity and bring about some understanding to our conversation. So before we get into that, as you already know, we're going to take care of our housekeeping details. So if you would like to take our show with you on the go, just know that we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, Audible, Podchaser, Castbox, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and YouTube. Taradcast is also on Throne, which is a free live messaging application that allows us here at Taradcast to exclusively reach our listeners. Make sure to sign up if you'd like to keep the conversations going after the episode. If you're looking for natural oils for ultimate hydration and care for your hair and skin, hit up The Resilient Lotus at www.theresilientlotus.com. And if you are a lover of authentic chunky salsas and also the most incredible birria tacos in Oklahoma City, make sure to reach out to Morenitas Salsitas at www.CRTN-T.com/Morenitas-Salsitas. And last but not least, if you are in the market to have an affordable graphic designer make your next logo, flyer, album cover, or poster, make sure to hit up at Rose Graphism on Instagram. All this information, as always, will be in our episode notes. All right, y'all. So I would like to take some time just to introduce our guest today. And our guest is a combat medic for the United States Army. She is a world traveler, an Afro-punk enthusiast, I've seen the pictures, connoisseur of grade A geekdom, and a wonderfully exuberant mother. Taradcast family, I'd like to introduce you all to LJ. LJ, what's going on, girl?
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here, and thank you for being here, taking time out of your busy life to spend time with us here at Taradcast to talk about your experiences. And I'm really excited about this conversation because, you know, outside of the show, I've had the opportunity of just, being able to dialogue with you about, various topics. And for me, being someone who has not been in any of the armed forces, I do have family who's been in the armed forces, but me, myself, I haven't been in the armed forces. There are a lot of things that I am just simply ignorant to. And so when it comes to your experience and things like that, I'm really looking forward to hearing the things that you have to say. And so please feel free when it comes to, as long as it's not classified information, feel free to, just tell us about some of the things that you've gone through and seen as we go throughout the show today. And, again, we want you to be honest, but we also don't want to get you in trouble either. You know what I mean? 'Cause we don't know who's listening. We don't know who got some taps on the phone or whatever the case may be. They might be listening to Spreaker and all that, the stuff I put my podcast on right now. So I just want to make sure that you're protected, so that way you can keep your career going.
No, we're good.
All right. So with that being said, one of the first things I do want to dive into is talking about the training that you've received and also how you began adjusting to military life, because I know for you've actually been a part of the armed services for quite a while.
Yeah.
And so I want to go back to some of those first days where you were just getting into it, beginning like your basic training and starting that process of adjusting. Like, what was that like for you?
It was a shell shock of a moment for
Really?
me. Being a mama's girl and being sheltered growing up, going to basic training and walking off the bus and having a group of strangers yelling in your face and you're not allowed to react in any way. It was definitely an eye-opener, but after going through the classes and sitting down and speaking with them, it's all part of a bigger picture. It's all part of the process to not break you down as an individual, but to get you out of that selfish mode and to build you into a soldier that's a part of a team. That only lasted for a couple months. And then after that, it went to AIT training where you learn your job.
Okay.
Which was my favorite part.
Okay. So even with that being said, okay, so you said you were learning your job and that part was your favorite part. So like for you, like what was the job that you went in for?
So I got to go right into the job that I chose, which is awesome. So I chose to be a combat medic.
Okay.
And the first part of my training at AIT, it's basically EMT school, civilian side. So it wasn't as stressful as the second half. Once you go through, get your certification, they pretty much put you in a deployed type environment with all of the sound effects and background noise and everything to get you used to this is what you're actually going to be doing. You have your certification now, but this is what you're going to do. And I appreciate that because it was definitely needed. I end up deploying within 6 or 8 months of getting to my first duty station. So it was definitely appreciative and prepared me in all the right ways.
Wow. See, now it's crazy to think, because oftentimes we don't really think about how much time passes, because it's like, for the majority of us, I'm going to refer to myself as a civilian in this particular interview because that's what I am. I understand. I don't, I know where I am. And when it comes to that, it's like, oftentimes we're, just kind of going through the day to day and things like that. It's like days pass, months pass, and it's just like, we're in February right now. So I don't really remember much of January, but like when it comes to time passing and the things that you've experienced, it's like, I can only imagine like what the actual impact of time is like for you as you're going through these different components of your training and, you know, just learning your particular job and learning the different aspects and like you were saying, even being exposed to the different sights and sounds, even though it was more so a enclosed experience, just getting you ready. And so like, it kind of makes me think about like what time must have felt like for you as you were going through that. So like, what if you don't mind just kind of fleshing that out a little bit, like what did time look for you? Like, did it pass quickly? Was it slow as hell? Like, what was that like?
Time while in AIT was slow as hell.
Really?
It was a point to where I was counting down the days, and the days it felt like they were repeating themselves. But of course, that's how it feels like in a deployed environment. Because once you're deployed and you're doing what you need to do, like, time does not go by fast. It goes by very slowly depending on what you do. So time during AIT was very slow, especially for me because I wasn't used to being away from home. That was my first time being away from home outside of basic. So, but afterwards, time went by super fast, especially the time between reporting to my first duty station and deploying. That part definitely went by very fast.
Wow.
Which I was a little upset about.
Oh wow. Well, and first of all, I don't want to go any further without saying I already feel guilty for not saying this already, but as a member of our armed forces who has continue to provide a service to our country to allow even people like me to have this type of platform. We can have conversations and we can be open and candid with one another. I just wanted to let you know, from me to you, thank you for everything that you do.
Well, thank you.
Because, oftentimes, I hear, a lot of different things about, our military, and a lot of people tend to forget that the people who are serving are people.
Oh, yes.
And it's not like y'all are just like a whole bunch of cybernetic robots controlled by remote control from somebody's laboratory. It's like y'all are people with real emotions, real feelings, real families, backgrounds, histories, experiences, all these things.
And I feel like a lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
So when someone like just randomly walks up to me when I'm in uniform and they thank me for my service, like, I mean it when I say thank you, because day to day, like, I feel like a robot sometimes, or I'm being treated as one. And just a simple thank you, it brings me back to reality. And it just makes me appreciative of everything.
Well, I definitely second that, as far as being appreciative of who you are and what you've been able to do, and especially for doing it as long as you've been doing. Like, again, people don't really understand like the sacrifices, and they don't understand like the fact that you're leaving so much behind in order to pursue this type of career.
Oh, yes.
And and there's a lot of things that happen that we're going to get into that have shaped you as a human, as a woman, as a Black woman. And it should go without saying that appreciation should come first and foremost. And so again, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for just allowing where we are right now to be that much more safer because of your involvement in the armed services. Like, we really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And so with that being said, I wanted to ask you, because you talked a little bit about your training and the time period in which that took. I wanted to get into the impact of being away from your family. So like, for the first time when that happened, like, what was the impact of being away from your family? Like, how did that impact you going in?
I broke, actually. I want to say it was the second or third day. And that's when I realized, even though I signed the paperwork and they said, hey, you're not going to be home this time, or this period of time, like, it wasn't until the second or third day when I realized, like, oh, I'm really not going home. I can't talk to my mom every day. Like, what is this? So I actually broke down and had to get myself together. But like I said, it was all worth it, because in the end, the people that I went to basic training with, like, I'm still really good friends with. We built bonds because we were all away from home for the first time. And we were all we had. And pretty much home away from home until you got to actually go home.
Now, in there a certain type of name for those people that you meet in those circumstances?
Battle buddy.
Yes. Look, I'm not one to try and like tell people stories or anything like that. I wanna hear it from the people who have been in it. So, it's like, I remember you telling me this like before the show, but I'm just like, no, we need to have somebody who's actually involved say it, so that way there's some validity to what's being said. But yes, battle buddies, not and I can only imagine like the strength of that camaraderie.
Oh yes. It's pretty much, you form these bonds without thought, without effort, with these people, because you're all away from home. You're all experiencing everything together. So it's pretty much understanding and knowing what the other person is going through without even having to say it. So there is an automatic bond, an automatic family that ends up forming, and there's no confusion or struggling with, hey, I need to talk to you about something. I already know what you're going through. I know what you're trying to say. I'm here for you. It's just automatic, and it's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful thing that happens just over time. And to this day, like, I have battle buddies from 2011, 2012 that I talk to on a daily basis. It just never goes away. It's pretty much family in every state.
Wow. And honestly, that's one of the most beautiful things, because as people, what I've grown to learn is that we are people who just when it comes to how we are made up, like, we need those relationships.
Yeah, and it is just hard being in the military and trying to call home and explain this to your parents or sister or brother. They're not really understanding, so you have to take time to go into what this word means or that word means, and then by the time you're done, you don't even want to explain your true emotions. Whereas compared to speaking to a battle buddy, you just know, and it makes it a safer environment for you to just let your guard down, be yourself. No judgment, no shame. It's just you, it's just me. Hey, I'm here for you. And it's beautiful. I love it.
Well, that's what's up. And one of the things that I oftentimes find myself like struggling with is, it's all the different types of acronyms that are used in the military. Like, there are letter combinations, letter and number combinations, and things like that. And it's just like, I know that this is a language that is spoken fluently in the military. And it's just like, when it falls on my civilian ears, I'm just like, this is complete Greek to me. And so it's, like, even learning some of those things, like, how long did it take you to even like, get some of those acronyms down pat?
It's a daily thing, honestly, because I've been in almost 10 years and I'm still learning acronyms.
Really?
It's pretty much an ongoing thing. For the majority, you know the bases, the letters, the time, and everything. And it just increases over time.
Wow. See, look, I get tired of my job using acronyms. I'm just like, can y'all just get the hell out of here with all this? Because I ain't got time to be worrying about this, and that. But I'm just like, when it's a part of your daily life and daily routine, I can only imagine that it's like, you better get it quick so you know what's being said and what's being communicated. Because, again, it's like, it's an entirely different way that you are going about this transition in your life. And these are things that you need to know in order to communicate effectively. And so, I don't know, to me, that always like, makes me think about the things, again, that I don't know, the things that you have to know in order to perform your particular services and duties efficiently.
It is quite funny though, like, I find myself all the time to this day speaking to my mom as if she knows what I'm speaking about, and I'll catch myself like, oh, I'm sorry, you're civilian. Let me start over. So it's real funny though. I definitely crossed the line. But it's cool though. We have our own little language, our own little community, almost.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I mean, honestly, when I think about that, I still think it's beautiful, because it's like, the things that you've seen and experienced together, it is, it is a bond, it's a friendship, it's a relationship that is birthed from those shared experiences. And because of that, there is a deeper level of connection, just like what you were saying earlier about, the battle buddies that you've been in contact with basically since 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And, just knowing that, because you all share that common experience, you have this relationship that has been able to withstand the test of a decade.
Yeah.
And, it's crazy, because it's like, for me, I feel personally, it's like, I've known people from 10 plus years. And I'm just like, yeah, I've known them, but I've also met people, especially with this new Clubhouse app thing. I've met people within like the last month, and it feels like I've known them for like 20 years, and it's just, you never know the actual level of impact that you're going to have on someone based on the experiences that you can actually connect with one another with. And, that is something that for me is really important. And also, speaking in the same vein of relationships, one of the things I also wanted to touch on is the fact that we even said in our title, you are a mother as well. Mm-hmm. And the relationship that a mother has with her child is one of the most important, if not the most important relationship that a child can actually have as they are growing up in their formative years. And so I wanted to ask you, being a mother, also being a single mother as well, like, what were some of the hurdles that you experienced as you made your transition into the military?
Oh, man. So I didn't become a mother until my 3rd year in. Mm-hmm. So I got to taste the military life just on my own. Freedom.
So how'd it taste?
And everything. Oh, it was awesome. The little parties, going out with friends, mm-hmm. Going out with your battle buddies and packs. And then when my daughter came along, I had the support from back home. And mm-hmm. Of course, the battle buddies I had at the time, they were there for me. Like, they knew I was away from home. I was by myself. It was to the point to where they would sleep with me in the room to make sure I was okay when I was sick. The only hurdles that I had that I'm a little upset with to this day mm-hmm. is the unit that I was in at the time. Mm-hmm. They were not very supportive of single parents. Mm. So it was really hard, especially when it came to duty and going to the field for training and stuff like that. I felt singled out because the other parents who did have children, they had spouses or partners to take care of the children. So I was pretty much the oddball at that time. And I just felt like the way my situation was handled, it caused an unnecessary amount of stress. And I ended up having to send my daughter home around 7 months. And I was exclusively breastfeeding at the time too. I had to send her home, and that was heartbreaking. I ended up having to go to behavioral health for it because you're separating a mother from her child. Right. You basically just ripped her from my arms, and I don't want to say I was threatened to send her home, but it was highly recommended to for the needs of the unit. And I still to this day, it doesn't sit well with me because yes, I'm a soldier. I enlisted to deploy and defend the country, but I'm still human. I'm a mother.
Of course.
And it didn't sit well with me.
And that's another thing, because that's and I actually did not know that about you, is that you were able to breastfeed. And when we even reached that topic, like, that is such an incredible bonding experience between a mother and a child. And it was even something that I also got to witness with my own daughter as well. And just seeing the connection, it's like we didn't have to buy pacifiers. We didn't, it's like if the daughter was crying, whip out the boob, there it is, boop,
exactly.
And that's it.
All cure all.
Right, exactly. And people don't even realize that, and again, what I'm saying is, if you are a mother and you're listening, if you are able to breastfeed, wonderful. If you're not, hey, you're still doing everything that you need to do. But, you know, I think about, you know, just the simple fact that there is that level of like connection whenever the baby, the child itself is connected to the mother and is receiving.
It's almost no higher bond than breastfeeding.
Right.
Because, you know, the body knows when the baby's hungry.
Yes.
So the breast milk just starts spilling. And the first time that happened to me at work, and my daughter was way at daycare.
Oh, wow.
Start spilling, going through my uniform, boom, got a phone call. Hey, your daughter's out of milk. I was just like, what? What is this? My body's reading her mind.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But yes, like I got to exclusively breastfeed for 7 months. And then when I sent her home, I still pumped breast milk and sent it to my mother's house. And it was heartbreaking. Like I have to send my breast milk through the mail, or I have to drive 18 hours to give my mom this case of breast milk. Like it's not normal.
Yeah.
I feel like she needs to be here with me, but it was just a sacrifice that I had to make.
Right. And that's, you know, and especially with a career as demanding as this, it's like, you know, these things you really have to weigh out, you know, because like you were saying, it's the ultimate bond. And to me, it's cosmic, it's spiritual. If anything, you know, being able to look inside of your child's eyes as they're feeding, there's like this electricity that I've been able to witness. You know, not in your case, but you know, as far as my daughter.
No, I get what you mean.
You know, and so it's just like I noticed that, and even as you know, my own child has grown up, I can see that there is a specific and special type of bond that happens. And it's really amazing to see. And so, you know, again, I still commend you and applaud you, especially for the fact that you were able to do it as long as you were able to, because, you know, that bond is still going to always and forever be there. You know, and of course, you know, with what you were saying, having to weigh out what your responsibilities were as what, you know, as far as being a part of a military unit and what you had to do. Like I can only imagine how hard that was, but at the same time, you know, knowing that in spite of this, what you're doing right now will bear its fruits very soon. Yes. You know, and so, you know, with that being mentioned, you know, after that particular period, I wanted to ask you, like, what continued to push you forward as you started getting further and further into your military career?
I would have to say my daughter, most definitely, because before she came along, I was ready to get out and go back home to my mom. Like my mind was made up and everything. Even when I was pregnant, it was made up. I'm going home to my mom. That's all I know. That's what I want. But as soon as I had her, and then even when I had to send her home to my mother, like it's like, no, I can't quit. Like she's looking up to me. I don't want to disappoint her by quitting. I have to finish this out. I have to keep pushing. It's not just about me anymore. And given the fact that Black children have less advantages of other ethnicities, I just had to make sure that I secured some kind of future for her, so she has somewhat of an advantage. Right. So like all the time that I put in, her college is taken care of. It's automatic. So in the moment, I felt horrible as a parent. You know, I didn't feel like a mother because she wasn't there with me. I didn't see her every day. I wasn't taking care of her in physical form. But in the end, like, you have a future secured. And I feel like that part was worth it.
I hear you. And LJ's daughter, if you're listening, if you find yourself listening to this episode, if you stumble across it anytime in your preteen and adult life, just know that you have a badass mom. I've known your mom for quite a long time, and she is a badass woman. I want you to know that. I want you to know that, you know, and I mean, it's for real, because the thing is, it's like, you know, when we think about children, there are so many parents who may not always have every opportunity to set things up for their children in a way to secure their future. And so, you know, you also making that a priority, you know, with your career and what you're doing, to me, that also speaks volumes. So that way, whenever you do reach that point when you're ready to step away, there are things that you don't even have to worry about when it comes to your child. And I think that adds such a layer of security, when it comes to ensuring your child's future, ensuring your family's future as a unit, you and her together. Yeah. And it's something that when I think about it, it's just like I'm really glad to hear it, but at the same time, notwithstanding the sacrifices that are being made in order to make that into a reality. And so, again, it's like just knowing that your daughter is one of the, if not the major influence that keeps you going, so that way she can have a future that is already taken care of. Like, to me, that's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. So, I also wanted to touch on some of the realities and lessons that you learned about not only just the military, but about life and about people as, you were coming out of training and, going into your actual career and things like that. Like, what were some of those realities and some of those lessons that you encountered during those periods?
Oh, man. Pretty much every experience I've had was a lesson learned. I came in blind. I was not prepared like other soldiers may be, with their parents being in the service and actually sitting down with them and talking about it. So I came in a little blind. So when I came in, it was a particular conversation that I had with a drill sergeant. She brought all the black females to the side and pretty much just laid it out. In your military career, you're either going to be a bitch or a whore. You decide what you want to be. Needless to say, I chose the bitch side.
Okay.
But hearing that within the first week, I'm just like, what is this woman talking about?
Yeah.
And then within a year, I'm like, oh, I get it. Me being a black woman in the military, it is 10 times as hard. I'm not taking anything away from anyone else, but I see the disadvantages all the time. So every day, statistically, it has been proven that black soldiers receive more punishments and we are punished harsher than those of other ethnicities or racial backgrounds. It's very unfortunate. Yes, they have put changes in place, but with all things, time will only reveal if those changes remain,
right,
and the effect of those. And it's just, I don't know, just being in, I have come across so many people that I appreciate. Like I said, I have battle buddies to this day from 10 years ago. I was actually talking to one of them earlier, and it was just, hey, how are you? Because we went through something so traumatic together.
Oh, wow.
So it's just one of those, hey, are you still here? You good? And it's like, yeah, I'm good. Mentally, I'm good. Okay. All right. So conversation was very brief, but it's just, you just come across these people that you will never forget.
Yeah.
Because they know not your deepest, darkest secrets, but your most traumatic moments in life that you can't or won't ever be able to tell other people.
Right.
And I mean, all these opportunities that I've had them, but some other soldiers, black soldiers, are not able to because of their skin color or because of the unit that they're in. So yes, everyone has the same amount of benefits and resources, but not all of us get to partake in them.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy. We're not represented in high places as often as I think that could cause change. But like I said, there are changes that have been made lately and within the last year, so I guess we'll see.
Okay. Well, and if anything, when it comes to change, oftentimes the most impactful changes are the ones that take the most time and they're the most gradual. Yes. Because it has to, it has to permeate through every layer. I can only imagine that there are certain things that you could do or certain things that you could potentially communicate that they may reach a certain ceiling. you know, and so it's the changes that allow those ceilings to be broken, so that way the effects of those changes can spill into all layers.
Yeah, it's pretty much all about speaking up. So when I first joined in, you know, brand new, afraid to speak up, keeping to myself, you know, just keep my head down, just gotta push through. But now that I've been in longer, like, no, I'm not gonna accept unfair treatment. I'm not gonna allow my soldiers to receive unfair treatment. We're here too.
Right.
You wouldn't be here without us as well. So the left path that I chose.
Yes. Yeah.
I chose, like, I am viewed that way, and I very often get labeled the angry black woman where I go. And I used to be very angry about that, but now I'm not, because that just means you're intimidated by my strength.
Right.
So you're just letting me know that you're afraid of what I can do. So I've encouraged many people to stand up, and that's what all boils down to: speaking up and reaching out, letting everyone around you, hey, something's going on here and it's not right. And the more of us that are speaking up, the more attention it gets, the quicker and more changes that are made.
That makes sense. So I wanted to take a moment just to shift gears real quick, because, you know, one of the things that I also know about a lot of military personnel is that they have the ability to travel the world in so many different ways. And so from what I know about you, you've traveled to places like Ireland, Afghanistan, Germany, Egypt, Paris. I want to know, like, what was it like experiencing the world globally through your military career?
And that's one of my favorite benefits of being in the Army, is being able to travel and go to places you probably wouldn't even think of going. And going to all those different places, I promise you, everywhere you go, you meet an amazing person or an amazing group of people. And learning different cultures and seeing how others live and where they come from and how they do things, it makes you appreciate the smallest things in life. It makes you appreciate the smallest things that you have in your personal life. It's just, it's a beautiful experience being able to go to Egypt in a mosque and eat with my hands and be dressed up in all the
regalia, the clothing.
That is like once in a lifetime experience that a lot of people in the world won't ever get to. And I don't take it for granted at all. I always have my phone out recording, like, can I take a picture? Can I record this? Because I want to show my daughter, like, hey, your mom went here, your mom did this. You could do it too. You can go further than this. And it's just, I love it. I love the travel.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Like, I know for me, I actually have like a blog that I keep for my daughter, like, for awesome moments that, you know, that either she's a part of course, since she's the focus, or that, you know, we're a part of, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, she doesn't really know about it. I mean, she's not going to know about a blog because she's 5. But, you know, whenever she turns like 18, like, I want to give her the password so she can like look and see like basically 18 years worth of like memories.
That's a great idea.
And things like that. Like, I would definitely encourage you to do something like that, because I know the website Tumblr, this is not a plug for Tumblr, but Tumblr, you know, you can create like a free one, and you can like post some of those things, you know, put captions underneath and videos, pictures, things like that. So that way, you know, she can have, you know, as long as she has that password and knows how to get there. So I highly suggest writing it down and keeping it somewhere. But, you know, as long as she has that, she can go back and even look at some of those things to be like, wow, this is what my mom did, and wow, this was me when I was like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And, you know, these are like memories and things like that. You know, now that, you know, as kids get older, there are some things, you know, it's basically, it's like a digital photo album. is what I like to call it. But I would highly encourage that, because, you know, being able to travel the world and to experience so many different people and cultures and things like that, like, that is something that is, you know, it's always going to live forever in your mind and in your heart. But also being able to have like that visual evidence, it just does so much to frame your story and everything that you have experienced, you know, leading up to those different points and milestones in your life. And so, yeah, that's just my shameless plug. You know, that's one of those things where it's like, I would highly encourage doing like a digital photo album where you can even like go back and like explain like some of those moments, you know, so that way it's like when she looks at it, she's like, oh my God, Mom, like, wow, you rock. you know, so again, I also have to ask you this, like, what like, if you could pick one place, like, which one was your favorite place? Like, what country or what continent was your favorite?
Ooh. You know, I'm gonna have to go with Egypt.
Okay.
I am able to say I stepped foot in the Red Sea. Like, I feel like that is so dope. I went into the pyramids.
Wow.
I touched King Tut's, you know, his headpiece. Like,
all right, now hold on. I can't
thing.
have you bringing no curses around here.
No, it's not like that. But
okay.
It's just certain experience that I had in Egypt. It's like I felt at home, and even though that I had work issues or whatever, I was at peace the whole time I was there.
Wow.
I can't really explain it. It's just my favorite place on earth, and I would go back in a heartbeat. Move my whole household and just go back.
Oh, wow. See, and you know, just there's so much just in the entirety of the continent of Africa. And I don't know, for me, whenever I think of Egypt, I also think of it being like such like a cultural hub in that sense, as far as like a lot of the things that we have grown to like read in books and see, you know, in film and cinema, and a lot of like the things I think about concerning like the wonders of the world, you know, it's like they're found there in that country. And so to know someone who has actually had the opportunity to see some of these things for themselves, it's really amazing to think about, because, you know, again, like you were saying, it's like, you know, when you meet people and you get to experience different things, you think about, you know, your life, and you think about, you know, the lives of other people, and how even though we may live separately and live different lives, we still have every ability to connect. And this is their home, and they want, you know, and they want to honor that, and they have no issues with showing you this is our culture, this is our history, and, you know, things like that. I just find it amazing that we can just be such, you know, diverse people, but still find those common things that bring us back together. You know,
it's definitely an experience I recommend for everyone.
Well, look, as long as all of us can get our passports in time, we will definitely partake in such travels. But one thing that I want to ask you before we go to our commercial break is the fact that you told us a while ago that you had a near-death experience in Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Without going too in-depth, it was just actually it was two separate days, but it was just, there were times where everything just went dead silent, and I made peace with life and death, and was ready to transition, and within seconds you have a second chance. And it was very, very humbling. And I didn't realize how humbling it was until after the fact, because, you know, the adrenaline's pumping.
Right.
You know, you got to get right back to work right afterwards, and you're going day by day. And it wasn't until I got back into my tent and I just sat on my bed and I was like, man, I almost died today. I should be dead today. Like, I should not be sitting here right now. And I made it my mission to enjoy life. Even on my sad days, I try to find something to laugh about, because those two situations were definitely humbling. And those are conversations for a different day.
Okay. Look, I can respect that.
But it was very difficult to get over and to get through and to handle. But I appreciate those moments at the same time.
Well, and with that being said, the mental impact that these experiences can have should always be at the forefront of people's minds, because especially for civilians like myself, there are a lot of things that if you don't understand mental health and you don't understand the impact of a situation, it's like you never really know what could potentially go on in the brain. Like so many of us, like you were saying, you're saying that you are making peace with the potential of living or dying. Like so many of us don't even know what that feels like. And to know that this is a reality that many of our soldiers face, I feel like understanding that and understanding what's truly at stake would give us a higher and a heightened appreciation for what it is that you all do, because we never really know.
Yeah, I think it's all about educating people, because we are put into one category and we're called crazy. And it's a little unfair because it's like you really don't understand the amount of stress, the situations, the things that were involved. And it's not, we're not crazy. It's, we went through something traumatic to where you probably wouldn't ever fathom, or all of your tragedies or traumas put together wouldn't even touch what we've been through. And then I'm not putting what we go through over anything, over situations other people go through. But I just think it's unfair. And I think as soon as people learn more about mental health and educate themselves better on it and talk to people like people, it would be a lot better.
I agree.
And oh man, I have pretty much all of my friends, they have mental issues or mental disorders to this day. And we definitely, I'm not bashing the military because I love it. I don't regret my decision joining. I appreciate and love my experience. But joining, you have to accept the fact that you are not going to be the same person from the beginning to the end. You're going to be different. And it's just a sacrifice you have to make for a better life for yourself and your family.
Well, with that being said, and from what you're telling me, there's a certain level of understanding that I'm gaining just from understanding and hearing what you're saying and really doing what I can to make sense of the things that you're communicating and just framing them to where it's like I can do what I can to walk 12 miles in your shoes, and it really does humble me in that sense, just understanding what it is that you are potentially seeing and potentially going through. And again, it's experiences that will shape you and stay with you the rest of your life. But at the same time, it's also experiences that have shown you so much about life and people and yourself and what it means to work as an individual, what it means to work as a unit, all the different components of like a at least a semi well-oiled working machine. But just understanding how you play your part, how you play your role in the midst of everything, it's definitely bringing that to the forefront of my mind. And with that, we're actually going to take our very first break, and when we come back, we're just going to talk a little bit more about some of these experiences and just even some of the more personal experiences, especially being a Black woman in the Army. So y'all, if you have your water, if you have your wine, if you have some tea, soda, juice, whatever it is, as long as it's not a Tide Pod, make sure to take a sip, and we will be right back, y'all. This is Taradcast. Yo, what's good, everyone? This is your host of Taradcast, Tarad Rashan, and I just want to welcome you to the commercial break. Now, you already know what time it is. It's hydration time. Get some high-quality H2O in your system now. Got a few things I'd like to go over. First, to all of our new and returning listeners, thank you so much for your ear and your time. To all of our Patreon supporters, I just want you to know that we are not able to do this without your direct support. So the biggest, dopest Taradcast thank you goes out to you. If you're listening in and you're thinking about becoming part of the Taradcast Patreon family, we'd love to have you. You can find us at www.patreon.com/Taradcast. Now on Patreon, we have 3 tiers of support. A $2 tier, a $3 tier, and lastly, a $6 tier. Each tier comes with its own set of unique perks. So if you find one that fits you, sign up. For us, the main thing is keeping our subscription prices affordable. We know that you work hard for your money, and if you choose to support Taradcast this way, we truly want to make it worth your time. To find out more about our Patreon and the perks with each tier, visit www.patreon.com/Taradcast. We've got it all laid out for you. Also, we've got a merchandise store. Pick up some tees, hoodies, leggings, and more at forevercertain.redbubble.com. All proceeds go right back into the Taradcast podcast and allow us to keep making high quality content for people just like you. For our listeners out there who would like to support us in a non-monetary way, we'd love that too. Share our show with people you know. Also, share us on your social media. And if your favorite Taradcast streaming service allows you to rate and review our show and you're loving what you're hearing, take some time and leave us a 5-star review. Ratings and reviews are what set us apart from other podcasts and also helps us to recommend our podcast to other listeners we otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to reach. Lastly, if you'd like to reach out to us directly, email us at taradcast@CRTN-T.com. That's taradcast@CRTN-T.com. All of this information can always be found in our episode notes, so make sure to check there if you forget any of the information we just went over. Once again, thank you all so much, and let's get back to the program. And welcome back to Taradcast. Again, just in case you forgot, I know you probably didn't, but just in case, I'm your host, Tarad Rashan, and we are being joined by LJ, and we are talking about the military's mark on a melanated mother. And so earlier in the show, we actually talked about battle buddies, and we talked about what that and who they are and what they mean to you specifically. And so I wanted to know, like, what were some of those experiences that you got to participate in that allowed you to forge some of those unbreakable bonds with those battle buddies?
Well, I don't want to say my favorite battle buddies, but the ones that I made bonds with, initially, it was our deployment to Afghanistan. We've witnessed death. We lost battle buddies together. Afghanistan was pretty much our darkest days. And, anyone on the outside can't really relate. They could sympathize, they can offer condolences, right, but they won't ever be able to grasp how it actually feels. And situations like that, and of course, even when we're stateside, being away from home, can't really call home, or being afraid to call home and explain this or talk about that. We pretty much are a family away from family. And I know it's kind of bad to say, but I sometimes feel like my battle buddies are more like family than my actual family, because they know the worst part of me. But I love it because they won't ever shame me. They won't ever judge me, because we all went through it together.
No, that makes sense, honestly. And one thing that I've grown to learn, especially being an adult, is that, just because someone is related to you by blood, it doesn't necessarily make them family.
Ooh, child.
and understanding that, those experiences and those things that you see and participate in together, those bonds that you make, those things that you find in common, or those things that you see together and work with each other through. Those are some of the things that truly forge those family-like bonds. And so it does make sense. Like it really does make sense. And the thing is, to me, now I can't speak for everybody else, but to me, I don't see that as being bad. Because again, there are certain people in my own family. I'm like, I'm related to you. I may say hey on the street, but don't ask me for nothing. I can't go there with you.
And I feel like that plays a part in it. All of my years in the military, we are away from family. Family does not check up on us like you would think. We are only checked up on when money is needed, things are needed. We are not checked up on a daily basis or just out of genuine concern. When you're deployed, my family's huge, both on mother and father side, and I had only 2 people write to me on my first deployment. And I'm not saying, oh, you need to talk to me or you need to check up on me, but it's just you take the time out to ask for money and to ask for things.
Right.
But you didn't even check up on me when I was going through the worst part of my life during that time. And I feel like that's where, the battle buddies come in. It's okay. I got my family over here. You don't have to check up on me.
Right.
And even when, I know everyone in the military can relate when I say when we go home, we travel so many thousands of miles to go home. And when we're there, we are still asked to, hey, come over my house. But I traveled 1,200 miles. Why can't you come 10 miles this way? You can't drive 10? I just drove 18 hours. You know what I'm saying? So that right there, it's like you definitely find out who really supports you and who really is there for you when you're in the service. And because of that, it just makes the bonds with each other, battle buddies, just makes our bond even stronger.
And honestly, that makes sense. It does. It's a relationship that for you, when as you're talking about it, it really shows who is there for you and who's not. And when it comes to the type of relationship that's being tested in that sense, it's like you already know what I'm giving. And so yes, I would love to be on the other end where you can also give to me as opposed to taking from me, because again, we know that when it comes to a lot of people who have careers in the military, there are benefits and things like that you have access to, and money that you're able to save, and just different things that will allow you to come back once your career has reached this end point, and allow you to survive and move forward and transition back into civilian life. And those things, of course, those are your benefits. But at the same time, like what we said before, you are still a human, and there is nothing that says that connection, like genuine connection, is unnecessary. And so I can only imagine what that could potentially be like for people like you who are experiencing these things firsthand and really getting an honest glimpse into who people really are.
Oh yes.
It's something that again, when I think about the human psyche and the things that we do, the things that we say, the things that we think about, oftentimes I see, especially in your case, there are a lot of things that are not taken into consideration when it comes to when it comes to like how you are. Like you said, you have no problem driving hours and hours and hours to come back to a familiar place, but also understanding that there are so many people who, for whatever reason, they will demand from you to come and see me, but they won't return that same gesture, that same effort to come and see you. You could be in a place where it's just like, I just want to be home.
That's why me and my mom have definitely, like, I was a mama's girl from the beginning, but my mother and I, our relationship has grown 20 times over because the level of her support, I question it because it's like, dude, aren't you tired of supporting me? Like you took in my child on a 24/7 basis. And it's like, I know it has to be a lot. Are you tired? Like, I can get out. And she tells, no, just keep going. I'm here. Go all the way to the end. Do the full 20, retire. Make sure you and baby girl are straight. And I'm just like, I know, but are you straight?
Right.
Because she's literally, outside of my stepdad, like, she's literally the only person that whole heart, like, from the bottom of her feet to the top of her head, supports me without a question. Before I finish a sentence, before I finish the question, she supports it. And it just amazes me, and I guess that makes it worth it. Like, the support I don't get from other people, like, it's okay. My mom has me. So that's why when I come to town, straight to mama house. Everyone else, like, if you can't meet me somewhere or you can't come here, then oh well, I'm at my mama house.
That is a fact, y'all. That is a fact. But at the same time, I think that type of support, that type of loyalty, the fact that it's so unwavering like that, there's a part of me that thinks that and I could be wrong. Mama, if you hear this, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like, even though your daughter is there 24/7, I feel like for her, in a sense, it's like watching you grow up again.
Oh yeah, she's said that quite a few times before, and I love the amount of happiness my daughter brings her. I still feel bad time to time, and I'll let my mother know, like, I feel bad, like, I don't feel like a real parent. But at the same time, like, I know I'm doing what's best for everyone. And I'm telling you, without my mother's support, I would not have gone this far at all.
Shout out to you, Mom.
I definitely would have went home as soon as I'm pregnant. I'm going home to mama house. I definitely would have quit a long time ago. But
Right. No, that makes sense. And honestly, I'm very glad to know that you have a rock like your mother who has stepped in while you are, pursuing your career in the military. So that way, when all is said and done and you come back, you could just hit the ground running. Like so many people don't understand the actual impact and the actual gravity of the things that we do for our children, especially during their formative years. And I can only imagine that, as you continue to grow and mature, and as your daughter continues to grow and mature, there are going to be those conversations where you'll be able to confidently, like, break these things down to her and continue to grow alongside her, as you continue to grow and progress yourself, and so, it's a task that's not easy, but at the same time, what I feel from you is that you are more than up for it, and you are looking to the future, so that way the things that are on the horizon will already be taken care of, and they will already be in place, and you will be able to lead that life and continue to be not only the awesome person, but the awesome daughter, the awesome mother, just the awesome woman that you are. And it's like, I can see that and I can hear that coming from you, because, you're already engaging in those things already. It's already at the forefront of your mind. And so, to me, that gives me a lot of hope and reassurance that, you will continue to be, the impactful and the knowledgeable and, the forthcoming woman and mother that will still be able to have that solid impact on your daughter's life.
Yeah.
And so, it's... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I kind of have to be, because my mom pretty much set the bar pretty high. So I have no choice but to, just keep keep pushing.
Right.
You know?
No, that makes sense. And look, I'm all for giving people their flowers while they're here, while they can smell them. So, LJ's mom, you have your flowers. LJ, we're giving you your flowers today as well.
They smell beautiful.
You know what? I'm just saying, look, if y'all can't see it, but I have a pretend bouquet that I'm passing to her right now, and she's just like
taking it all in.
Yes. All right. So we talked a little bit about this before, especially being a black woman in the military, and how, when you were first brought in, you were told that you're going to be looked at one of two ways. And so, one of the things that I've wanted to just get a little bit more information from you about is the level of treatment that you've experienced as a black woman in the military. Like, what were some of those experiences like that you can recall?
Without going too in depth.
Of course. We got to keep classified information classified. I understand.
I've definitely received extra duty. Just because, I was the person of color. I've definitely been mistreated. I've been overlooked. I've been, given extra tasks. Pretty much things that go on in the civilian world happens in the military. I mean, it's unfortunate because the military is supposed to be, or it is, a melting pot. And given the fact that everyone comes from various places in the world, human nature still continues.
Right.
Unfair treatment still goes on. So I've had my fair share of situations, but like I said, I chose a certain path to stand up for myself and for those around me. So if I'm looked at in a negative manner, it's okay. I will be treated as a human. Respect goes both ways. Right. But I make sure I do it professionally, of course. Yeah, that's all I can say without going, too in depth about it. I will say that I stand up for other soldiers more than I stand up for myself, because I feel like I could take on more, right, without it bothering me or getting to me. Whereas new soldiers, coming in fresh from home, fresh from high school, and they're being mistreated, this is not the first impression you want to give them. Right. The whole point is to make them feel love, make them feel like this is a family so they could stay longer, right. Not to scare them away. So that's where I come in at, pretty much like an auntie, and take everyone
Auntie
under
LJ, we need to go to her office now.
Yeah, pretty much take everyone under my wing. And yes, I will bump heads with people that I may not bump heads with or not supposed to, but right. I'm okay with doing that because, come on now, I really believe in fair treatment and equal opportunity. That's just me across the board. I can't accept it, which is the whole point of me being who I am, a soldier. Right. It's the whole basis of us being who we are. Yeah. Is us being family.
No, that makes sense. And you said something very, very important, just remembering the human aspect of people and remembering that with this being a completely new experience for so many people, it's, I can only imagine that, it could be very intimidating, for a lot of people who haven't quite yet gotten adjusted to it. They don't really know exactly where to turn.
Oh, yes. I remember feeling that way, like to this day. Like I could pick out a soldier that looks, that I know for sure, like, yeah, they're going through something because I was there. And with the knowledge that I have now, I'm upset that I didn't have it then because I could have stopped so much from happening when I first joined. But now that I have the knowledge, I spread it. And for those who don't want to stand up for themselves or they're afraid to, I'll do it for them, or I'll stand behind them so they know they have my support. As long as it's the right thing.
Right. Yes. Don't be out here making her look bad now. Come on.
Yeah, but like I said before, black soldiers, we are way more susceptible to getting punished and receiving the max amount of punishment or whatever they decide to give. And it's unfortunate, but that's where being educated comes in at, and knowing people and knowing the regulations. And that's what I preach to my soldiers when they come to me. Read this and read that, and we'll come together at a later time and sit down, and we'll come up with a plan with how we're going to handle this.
And that's honestly, that's really good. Being someone that has access to resources that can help to provide education, or even just to help provide strength, for a person, regardless of what it is they're going through. So that way they at least have the knowledge that, okay, if this situation presents itself, I know that these are my options. And if those options are exhausted, I can at least go to this person or utilize this other resource to try and follow up and do something else. I can only imagine, how much a lack of information is not tolerated. But at the same time, having access to the right information in the right situation can provide a roadmap that will bring clarity and understanding. Whether or not it actually provides favorable results, at least the information is within their grasp.
Oh yeah, that's why I feel like representation matters.
Yes.
There was a point where I was in a unit where I was literally the only person of color. And being that in that situation, I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't know where to go for help. I was pretty much just stuck. And it just took for me to reach outside resources to, learn different things and to learn how to stand up for myself in the correct way. And that's why the current unit that I'm in now, there are people who look like me, who are in higher places and higher ranks. And it makes a huge difference of the type of environment that you work in. Like, people do not understand that having a diverse workplace, the positive impact that it can have on those on the lower end.
Right. They feel like they have an advocate. They feel like they have someone that if they needed to go to them, they would actually understand what they're going through. And and again, there's one thing that I've also grown to learn, especially with the emergence of the political conversations that are being centered around Black Americans and other people of color, and the things that go on in our communities and the things that we specifically need from our government, and having the people in those seats that know these issues and can advocate for us regarding these issues. Like, it makes like a hell of a difference, because you don't have to spend as much time explaining why it is you feel the way that you feel, because regardless of the circumstances, there are certain things that we automatically know, or that we automatically have experienced, or at least seen, to where we don't have to necessarily have it broken down in such a way and fed to someone else in order to try and get like the smallest bit of understanding from it. So,
and a lot of it has to do with people's background in their childhood. I've met many people in the military that never dealt with a person of color in their life until they joined. So, in those type situations, things are said, things are done, they're maybe inappropriate. So that's where the knowledge and the resources and reaching out and standing up for yourself comes into play, because it's a learning experience for everyone, for the person who's being mistreated, and for the person who's doing the mistreating, whether it's on purpose or, by accident. It's a learning experience. And I think with everything, the racial injustice that's going on right now in the media, I feel like with it being so prominent in social media now, it helps. It's bad that it happens, but it helps because now everyone is learning, okay, what I said is wrong. Okay, maybe I need to approach this situation a certain way. I have soldiers, that are Black, so maybe I need to approach them this way and be cautious of how I speak. So I feel like the things that are going on in the media, like, it's awesome, because it brings awareness,
Yeah, and I can definitely see that. And, just being able to have access to such awareness, I feel like it's one of those things that falls into the realm of like necessary character building, you know, like being able to identify those things and to know what they look like, you know, to read those things from other people and to recognize what that is, you know, what you need to engage in, what you need to stay away from, you know, and how to handle a situation whenever it brings the confrontation to your doorstep. And, you know, I can only imagine like the actual skills that can develop from witnessing these situations and also being someone who has handled these types of situations, because, you know, at the end of the day, people are going to be people regardless of wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you know, from the strip club to the church pew, you know, people are going to be people. But at the same time, I don't even know why I use that example, it just popped in my head. But it's like, you know, people are going to be people, and you're going to see people in their rawest form, and sometimes you'll see people in their fakest form, but you know how to you got to know how to deal with both. You know, you got to know what those things look like and know how to identify your own response to what it is they bring to you. You know, that's one of the things, like I think about the words, you know, reacting versus response, where, you know, reacting is that instinctual action that takes place whenever you're met with a situation or circumstance, and a response is something that takes a little bit more thought. It takes a little bit more introspection before you deliver it. And so, you know, I can only imagine that the military, it teaches you how to do both in a very skillful way. But at the same time, it also prepares you for just even like the regular people who may be operating from a state of ignorance. And as opposed to reacting to them, you have a response to them. And I feel like, you know, that type of ideology, I can't speak today, that type of ideology is something that transitions so many levels. And speaking of transitions, because, you know, we're talking about dealing with people and things like that, and knowing how they may be and how they will, you know, approach you. One of the questions that I also wanted to ask you, don't laugh, is what is it like trying to date in the military? I told you not to laugh, and you did. But I want to know what that's like, because I feel like that's a good segue into that question, because you're dealing with different people all the time, you know. And so, like, what is that like in the military?
You know.
Now, hold on. Before you go forward, is any of this information classified?
No. So, since I've joined the military, majority of the people I've dated have been military. And it was just simply because I wanted someone that I could relate to. Someone that could understand, you know, hey, I'm going to be working late tonight. You know, okay, yeah, all right. See you at bedtime. But at the same time, I have witnessed my battle buddies or coworkers manipulate things to where they can get away with it. And I would say me dating someone in the military, it has made me not want to date. So I haven't dated in the last 3 years. Because I don't have trust issues, but I have noticed the military guys that I have dated before, because I understand it, you know, working late is not it's not abnormal. It's a very normal thing for us. But because I know that, and they know that, that means that I am more susceptible to being manipulated, and of course more tolerable to things that I normally wouldn't accept in a normal relationship with someone, you know, outside the military. So knowing that, I just pretty much just took a step back and was like, okay, gonna take a break. It is very stressful. I've seen both sides. I mean, I'm not saying only the military men, you know, manipulate and lie and cheat and everything, because it goes both ways. But I can only speak from my perspective. And it is not a fun situation. You know, it's just not something that I want or need for my daughter and I. I want something more permanent. And they do not. So right now, I just decided to take a break because it was unnecessary stress, to be completely honest.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Again, regardless of if you are in the military or not, people are going to be people.
Exactly.
You know, and people are going to see what they can get away with, and if they can get away with it, they're going to try and keep getting away with it. So, you know, that's something that has made itself known like all across the board, regardless of wherever you may be.
And I'm not saying everyone in the military cheats.
Of course.
I'm just saying the few experiences that I've had, they did not go well.
I see.
So I'm just taking a quick little break. That's all.
All right. Well, I mean, you know what? It makes sense. You have to do what's best for you. And that's the only thing that you can do, because you are also the one living your life, you know, and you have to keep that as number one priority. And so, you know, with that being said, you know, I can definitely see how dating in the military can be tough, because again, people will be people. And so you can decide whether or not you want to answer this next question or not. I leave it totally up to you. But I wanted to know, like, what have you encountered in your career that has affected your dating life? Like, what are some of the experiences that you've seen or things that you have learned that have like created the framework in how you look at dating? And this can be inside or outside the military, but I just want to know how those experiences have like changed how you look at dating now.
It has. I know, because I was so tolerable to things that I normally wouldn't accept. It took me a while to put my foot down and say, no, I'm not accepting that. So when I do decide to get out there and date again and look for someone, I know that I want to actually know the person. I want to actually communicate. There's no just, we're on the same, okay, got it. You know, no, let's actually sit down and talk. Use words. How is your day? What is your love language? You know. Important question. Yeah, you know, my last relationship, I suffered depression really, really. I got really low for a couple of months, and because he was in the military and he was more of like a robot, he didn't understand what I was going through. And even though I was communicating it, he just pretty much did what the Army does sometimes, and you'll be okay, just sleep it off. I see. And it's like, no, it's not something you can just brush under the rug, you know. It's deeper than that. It's way deeper than that, and it put a strain on our relationship. And it wasn't until he went through something similar for him to understand. But at that point, you know, it was after the fact. Yeah. So I definitely, because I love people and I love getting to know people and, you know, sharing experiences, I definitely need someone that could communicate. Right. Because communicating and trust, those two things, if you have that, everything else falls into place. I agree. You know, it's one thing that I tend to believe, or more so I've grown to believe, and I hate that I do, but it makes the most sense, because you actually just described it. And oftentimes, you know, whenever someone's hurting, whenever someone's going through something and there is another person who doesn't understand, oftentimes it does take something tragic or horrible to happen to them or someone that they know or love in order to get them into the headspace to understand a lot of the things that people go through, like depression and, you know, anxiety and, you know, just you know, those types of ideations that a lot of people don't vocalize, because, you know, like you said, a lot of people are just like, no, just sleep it off, like, you know, like how you were saying. It's just like, it's not that simple. You know, you're dealing with the brain here and the thoughts that are occurring in the brain, and you know, if you're a robot, you don't necessarily, and I'm just speaking generally here, but if you're a robot, you're not necessarily thinking on a
conscious and subconscious level to where you're being empathetic with others and you're really trying to take time to understand what people are actually going through, and being the kind of person that can lend an ear, lend a shoulder, lend a pillow, lend a cup of coffee, whatever could potentially be needed in that moment. You know, it's just like, you think that, you know, oh, this is just something that you'll get over, you know, once you go to sleep. And it's like, no, it's not that easy nor simple. And, you know, for me, also being a mental health advocate, it's just, you know, the things I've grown to observe and realize, you know, a lot of these things take time. And if you don't show someone that you want to spend that time with them, then you really have no business trying to tell them how to get over something. Or, you know, you have no business trying to tell someone how to look at something or think of something, because you really don't care. You only want a certain side of them to come forward. And if that's not what they're feeling, that's not what their brain is communicating through their body, then that's not what you're going to get. You know, and it's amazing how so many people can be so cold in that sense until something happens to them and they're thrust into that. Right. That's what I'm saying. You know, and I can only imagine how, like, you know, the different things you experience, especially like, you know, constantly training, moving, you know, and seeing people in their most raw form, how that also plays a factor. Because I know you do a lot of traveling.
Oh yes.
You know, and I can only imagine how frantic that could be. You know, because it's like you're here for a little bit, but then you got to be over here, and then in the middle of the day you got to travel over here. You know, and then you got to stay over here for 24 hours and then fly back here and things like that. Like, I can only imagine that, you know, life for you, especially in this realm, can be a bit hectic.
Oh yes, it's very hard. Like, I am an alpha female only because I have to be. And I am, when I date, because I say, yeah, I'm in the service, I'm in the military, they automatically put me as the alpha female. And it's like, no, like, you're the alpha. Can I just relax? I'm on 10 all day at work. I want to dial it down to a 2, you know? And it's like, that's what makes dating so hard. I just want to relax. Can I put my feet up?
Right.
You know,
and can you rub them? I mean,
yeah, like, the military is stressful as is. I just want to come home, relax, talk a little bit. So, I mean, every day stresses of the military, and having to travel, it definitely makes it hard. I was speaking with a friend the other day. I want to be a wife. That's the whole purpose of us being on earth, you know. Find a spouse and be fruitful, but I can't do that with me traveling all the time and me being in the military, because if he's military, we're never going to see each other, because we're both going to have hectic schedules. If he's civilian, he's not going to understand why I'm gone for 72 hours. You know, it just puts a strain on any type of relationship. That's why I commend those who are able to maintain their marriages and relationships when they're in the service, because it is work, and I'm just dating.
We haven't even gotten to the actual ring ceremony yet.
Right? It's work. So that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break, focus on my daughter, get school knocked out of the way, and, you know, if it happens, it happens.
All right.
I'll be prepared for it.
I know you will. I know you will. Look, and we definitely wish you, you know, the best in any future experience that you have, because again, everything that you're doing right now is being done for the sole process of setting yourself up and setting your daughter up for a future where there are just things that you will not have to worry about. And so I know that, you know, whenever you reach that point in your career where it is time for you and you make that transition out, you know, you will have that time to just, you know, decompress and just, you know, ease yourself back into the civilian life. And, you know, do things your way, you know, because you have these experiences. I can only imagine how well you can read people now, you know, just from the experiences that you've had. And so, you know, just thinking about that, like I really hope that you're able to find someone that can understand, be empathetic, but also complement what it is that you are bringing to the table. And you know, again, it's like I look at a lot of people nowadays, and sometimes I worry, but you know, look, we're in our 30s now, so it's like if you're still doing, you know, BS things in your 30s, there's something wrong with you. It's like, come on now, like you do not need to be acting like that. Like, you are still acting like a whole grown ass child. Like, come on. I mean, I'm not even talking about like from the standpoint of like having fun or anything like that. Because I've watched silhouette challenges and busset challenges and people doing put them in a coffin and all these other different things. I'm just like, you know what, you know, do it. I'm enjoying it because it's making me laugh, it's making me smile. But at the same time, it's like, if you're still out here, you know, 30 plus years old and you still don't know how to hold a regular conversation, or you're still trying to slide into people's inboxes saying the most whack shit, you know, it's like come on, you know, like these are the things I'm talking about. I'm just like, you know, people who don't understand how to just interact with people, you know. But I really hope that you do not have to deal with that going forward. You know, and that's all I'm gonna say on that. But at the same time, y'all, of course, we are here at Tarodcast. We're going to take our very last break, and when we come back, we are going to conclude our conversation with LJ today. So thank you all for continuing to listen. Take another drink of your water, wine, juice, you know, whatever it is that you're sipping on. Take another drink and we will be right back. This is Tarodcast. Welcome back to Tarodcast, y'all. Again, I'm your host, Tarad Rashan, and we are being joined by LJ today, and we are finishing up our conversation regarding the subject of the military's mark on a melanated mother. I don't know if y'all can tell, I really like alliteration, so I was using M's throughout this whole title, so don't stone me, it's just what I like to do, okay? I'm a part-time rapper. Anyway, so... Don't laugh at me. I am. So as we're reaching the end of our show, LJ, I wanted to talk to you about some of the pros and cons of a military career. So one of the first things I want to ask you is, you know, what would you say to someone who is thinking about a military career?
Honestly, go for it. But only do it with goals set in mind prior to doing it.
Okay.
I joined with no goals. I just wanted something different, a different change of pace, you know. But once I joined, I was like, okay, I need goals. And I wish I would have did that beforehand. But joining it opens up so many opportunities. I mean, you go to school for free. I'm on my second degree. My daughter's college is paid for, and she's only 6. You know, of course, the travel. We've talked about the travel and meeting the different people. The military pays for any certification you want to have for when you transition out of the military. Even when you're transitioning out, you can go to truck driver school, you can become a CNA, LPN. It's just so many opportunities that can set you up for after the fact. And then, of course, you know, it's the experience that you gain while in. It's nothing that can compare or convert to or from anything else. So I honestly think that everyone should join 2 to 3 years, because it's just an eye-opener. It's a door opener. So many opportunities. Endless if you know where to look, know what you want, and have goals in mind.
So you say the word goals, and goals is a very important word because goals also factor in accountability, because, you know, in order to set a goal, you have to first put within yourself that you're going to do the work to reach the goal itself. And so I know that you said that when you first got in, you didn't necessarily have goals, but when that changed, like when your mindset changed, like what were some of those goals that you developed in your career?
Pretty much after I had to send my daughter home, that's when I was like, okay, it's not just me. I need to set things in place for both of us. So that's when I told myself I'm going to finish school, no matter how long it takes me. I'm going to make sure her future is secured. And that was all that I had planned, and I've excelled those. Like I said, I'm on my second degree. She's taken care of. My credit's taken care of. I have money saved.
Right.
And, you know, I have things going on in the on the civilian side that's gonna set my daughter, her kids, and their kids up for life. And I don't have any negative feelings toward the military. Yes, I have experienced negative things while in, but like I said, I'm very appreciative because it has definitely set me up for success, and I don't regret it at all.
So if you don't mind us asking, so you said you're working on your second degree. What is that in?
It's actually psychology. Right now, I'm going to be done in November, which is going to set me up for my third degree in nursing.
All right.
Which I'm going to knock that out by summertime of next year, as long as things go right. So I have a whole plan going. What for if I continue in the service or if I get out next year. Okay. You know, I am always proud of people who continue to further their education when given the opportunity to do so, and just being able to have those types of accreditations and those, you know, certifications, diplomas, you know, degrees, all the things that tie together to give you the well-deserved credibility. You know, that's something that for me, I'm always proud to hear, because I know for me, one of the things that I want to do is go back to school and, you know, become a counselor. That's one of the things that I also want to do, because I really enjoy the act of being an empathetic listener. Like, that wasn't my life, you know, for a long time. And there are probably experiences that you and I both can recall where I was not that person. But at the same time, that's another conversation. But at the same time, it's like, as far as me growing into the person I am now, I see that there are things that people really just need to say, and they don't know who to say them to. They don't know how they will be met when that information is communicated. And for me, that's something that I'm putting out there into the universe, because I know what happened. My future self is already that person. Now it's just doing the work to reach that future self. And when I think about that, it's just like, these are the things, you know, as we go forth and as we, you know, become these people, you know, these are the things that are going to truly not only just change other people, but change the world. You know, and just thinking about that on that scale, how your impact can be the determining factor in someone's whole life changing. To me, that's a very, very important thing. And, you know, just thinking about that, it gives me so much joy. Like, it really does. Yeah, I feel like listening or just communicating, period, it can go so far.
Yeah.
People can go so far. They just learned how to communicate and listen properly.
I agree. And what I also wanted to do is, you know, just from the 10, and I'm gonna say 10 plus years being in the military, since, you know, you're embarking on your 11th year, you know, just from your combined experiences, I want to know about some of the pros and the cons of being enlisted in the military, because there were some things that we've touched on, but, you know, now that you have at least that 10 years under your belt, or under your combat uniform, I should say. I don't know if it includes a belt or not. It probably does. But you know, thinking about that as a whole, like, what could you say are some of those like general pros and cons of being enlisted in the military? You could start with either one first. It could be the cons before the pros, or the pros before the cons, either one. But I'd like to hear that from you.
Well, the pros pretty much are the resources and the opportunities. You know, education, retirement plan. You know, you do 20 years, you get, boom, retirement money off the bat. You know, healthcare, opportunities for spouses and children. You know, there are programs set in place for those who have children with, or spouses with special needs. I mean, the Army, like, it's all around, like, we are our own fraternity, our own brotherhood or community, and we take care of one another, you know. So aside from the education and the travel, you meet so many different people and build bonds that you don't ever want to get rid of. Like I said, I can travel from here to California to New York to Florida and back, and I promise you, in every state along the way, every stop that I make, I can call up an old friend. And it's beautiful how you connect with people based off, you know, just similar traumas or experiences. And essentially that's how you get rid of the things that are going on today. You know, connecting with people. And of course the cons are the typical cons of any job, honestly. You know, you have the unfair treatment. Unfortunately, with the military, you have to be away from family for long periods of time. I mean, it sucks. Being deployed, and you mean I can't take my daughter with me? What is this? You know, that is the biggest one, being away from family. And unfortunately, a con is the military will expose your friends and family who are not there for you genuinely. And that's a big one too. But, you know, just typical cons, just like any other job. I
mean, but also that could be a pro in some certain situations. You know,
is true.
Depending on the person and what the circumstances, it could be a pro. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and of course, because of the military and deploying and the things we go through and the everyday stresses, you have to be ready for that mental wear and tear. That is a con that I was not prepared for. Like I said, I am not the same person today that I was when I first joined. I catch myself, you know, zoning out here and there, and I have to remind myself, like, hey, I'm still LJ, you know, I'm still me, smile
be
a little
present.
bit, you know.
So
So that's a con, but it doesn't have to be a con for everyone. You know, everyone's military experience is not the same. But yeah. Those are the pros and cons for me, from my perspective. The ones that I've come across.
Well, and you know, honestly, those types of things, you know, as you say them, they do make sense. They do make sense. It's just remembering, you know, doing your best to remember where you are and why you're doing it. You know, with everything that could potentially come to pass, remembering why you're doing it. And keeping that grounding, keeping that foundation. So, you know, whenever things do hit the fan and you find yourself, you know, trying to decipher between certain situations, or having to come out of a trauma, or, you know, losing someone that was close to you, or, you know, any of the plethora of situations that could potentially happen, you know, just remembering why you're doing it. And like you were saying, like setting those goals and keeping those at the forefront as best as you can, and making each day count as a step towards those goals. And, you know, to me, it's something that, you know, again, it can be applied not just in the military, but also in real life, day-to-day interactions, the things that we go through here on the civilian side as well. It may not be as intense or rigorous, but if we look at it and act on it with the same care and tact, I can only imagine that we would see a lot of the same results, you know? And so I definitely do believe that everything that you said is also very transcendent, you know, into how we can be, you know, as far as going on that path to reach our ultimate self and to secure, that future for ourselves, and it is, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing to hear you speak, because I know it's coming from a place that is very genuine, and what you're saying and what you're recalling and what you're communicating is it's very real to you, and that's one of the reasons why I call you friend, because it's like, I know when you approach even subjects like these, you speak from a place where I have lived this, I have seen this, I do know what goes on, I have seen the justices and the injustices, but at the same time, I love my experience. I love the fact that I am able to do these things that will help me to secure a lifelong future for myself and my family. Like, I jumped into your combat boots just then.
Oh, no, it's okay.
but that's what I get from you, and I feel like even in the way that you communicated that, and the spirit that you have in communicating that, that's definitely the message that comes through. And so that actually leads me to my very last question. When you look at your career in the Army, do you find that your outlook on the world and its people have changed?
Yes, actually. I can say that I am very cautious when approaching or going around and meeting people. Initially, I'm cautious. But then once I have approached a person or met the person and the initial part is out of the way, I fully embrace the moment. Because this may be the last time I see you.
Right.
So I try to enjoy every moment, every person, every experience. I try to enjoy for what it is and just live in the moment. I don't try to, maybe tomorrow. No, I'm right here in this moment, because like I said, technically I'm not even supposed to be here right now. So everything seems brighter. I go into everything with a more open mind. I try to think of things in a more positive aspect.
Right.
And I just overall just become more appreciative of everything and everyone that I know and the things that I experience.
Okay. No, honestly, that is something that it just speaks to the whole idea of just fully being present, like understanding that in this moment I am here, of course still doing what you can to keep your well-being, your emotions, your psyche, the things that you feel, to keep these things close and protected, but also being able to identify in other people that, if I'm around you, I know I can be this way. I know I don't have to worry. I don't have to have that fear. Like those things, for a lot of people, it takes, a lot of time, a lot of trial and error, to learn how other people operate and how to operate within themselves as well. One of my biggest things is authenticity, and I can only imagine that for you, that's something that you are able to, look at a person and read from them, like right off the bat. Like you were saying earlier, how, you can tell when some of the new recruits come in, you can look at one and be like, I know they're going through something. Yeah. And that is something that, it's unspoken, it's body language, it's facial expressions, it's the way they carry themselves, things like that, where because you've seen these things in this particular atmosphere, you automatically know, and you would also know how to respond in that sense if they were to come to you with those types of things. But at the same time, just understanding how important it is just to be present and to be in the moment, that is something that I feel will continue to give you that peace, and it also gives you the lens to know, all right, I don't need to be over here with you because you doing too much. And I've seen people just like you doing more than you. You have no idea. But, you know, you're only at the bottom level. I've seen people who look just like you doing all kinds of wild and crazy things, and you are well on your way. So I'm going to be well on my way this way.
Yeah, I'm just going to go the other way.
Exactly. But I do appreciate that you said that, because even still, it also brings that awareness of how important it is just to remember to be in the moment, to understand that there are those people that, as you encounter them and you have those same and shared similar experiences, you can trust them, and knowing that those are your family, your battle buddies, and people like that, you know, that without a doubt have your back. And just being able to take time to, you know, cliche phrase, you know, stop and smell the roses. Because, you know, the little things like that are truly impactful, and they are the building blocks that create our appreciation for
definitely.
life. So with that being said, y'all, that is actually our show. So I appreciate all of you listening and for engaging in this conversation alongside LJ and I. And LJ, again, I just wanted to thank you for being such a valued guest on our show. Thank you. And before we go, I wanted to give you the opportunity to leave any parting words for our listeners that you may have. If you have any, we'd love to hear it. If not, just say bye.
Well, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity for speaking my little piece.
Oh, it's not little. It's not little.
Just a caveat, you know, don't be discouraged by the military. Me being a person, a woman of color, particularly, life is hard. Everywhere you go, every situation you're going to be in. So don't let things like the military or enlisting turn you away from your goals or what you want to do in life. Because, like you said before, we're badass.
Yeah.
Black women are badass.
Yes, y'all are.
You can accomplish anything you put your mind to, boo-boo.
Yes.
But yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right, well, you know, we are going to take that, and we are going to make sure that everybody who listens to our show hears that exact message. And I'm not going to filter it or nothing. It's going to be exactly what it is, because I echo that 1,000 trillion billion fulfillion %. So again, LJ, it has been a true pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
And with that being said, y'all already know how we close out our show. And before we do that, of course, you all know where to find us. You all know how to support us. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review if you get the opportunity. And also, you can take this conversation to our throne room. The links, just like everything else, are in the show notes. And as always, I want to encourage you all to be more introspective and vulnerable with yourself. Know who you are, love who you are, and trust in who you are. Once again, I've been your host, Tarad Rashan, joined by LJ today. Thank you all so much for listening and being an intricate part of our conversation tonight. And we hope that you make every effort to find and keep your peace. Until next time.